And there came a day unlike. Wait, no, that's been done. Who knows what evil lurks in. No, that is that other thing. What has yellow skin and rights? Ah, forget it. You're listening to Panelology. Excelsi, oh damn it.
Welcome to episode 241 of Panelology. I'm Alex.
And I am Brian.
How's it going, Brian?
Going good. I got cell service back after a little debacle this week with activating a new phone. But yeah, that's all good.
Well, I dropped off my ballot at one of the ballot drop boxes for Cobb County last week.
Very nice, very nice.
Yesterday, in fact, as we're recording.
All right.
I baked some birthday babka for friends with birthdays. I baked some chocolate cheesecake for myself. And I built another Game Boy Advance.
Oh, nice.
Yes, a Christmas present for my brother.
Very, very nice. Yeah, early voting starts tomorrow here in Georgia, so we'll be jumping on that.
Yeah. I ordered my ballot like the day I could.
Right, yeah.
So it showed up this week, and I dropped it off before the lines form at the voting precincts.
There you go.
Polling places, that's the word. You would think by this point I would just not have to stop and think about voting terminology.
Right, yeah, especially here, yeah. It's fair to say we've been a little bit inundated here in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, which, you know what? If that is the price we pay to get competent people in the Senate...
Hey, I'm willing to pay that. Easy, yeah.
I do not speak for Panelology as a whole, but you know what? Fuck Mitch McConnell and anything we can do to get him out of there. And if you want to know what I think about anyone else running in this election, I'm on Twitter. Just check any tweet from the last 2 weeks. You'll see something.
Here's a hint. None of them will shock you. None of Alex's opinions will shock you.
No.
No.
But yes. Panelology says vote, Georgia.
There you go.
Anyway, let's talk about comics. Hard pivot. That.
Yeah, please.
Batman, Black and White, #1.
So this was our black and white artistic focus anthology book.
The first of 3 anthology issues this week, in fact.
Right? Yeah, it is. So there we go. This had a couple of really, really good stories in it.
Yes.
So, the first one was a James Tynion book, story, illustrated by Tradd Moore, and no surprise that Tynion wrote a good Batman story. But specifically, I think this one I wanted to point out because I think it does a really, really good job of kind of showing what stories in this kind of format can really do.
I agree. Like, I think this was a strong... Like, this is the first one in the book, and I think it was a strong decision...
I do too. Yeah.
To be the first one. Like, the second page of this, in and of itself, like, is a great example. You've got these League of Shadows, League of Assassins, running on a rooftop. And panel 1 is top down. Panel 2, like, goes 3/4 turn behind them so that the horizon is now upside down. The third panel is from an interior window showing them so that the assassins are upright as they fall, and you've got, like, ceiling fan on the ceiling at the bottom of the panel.
Right.
With its pull cords hanging upward.
Yep.
And then, like, the camera keeps, like, finishing this barrel roll, so now it's behind them, and the horizon on the bottom of the page is the glass and concrete or whatever facade of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And we get them falling through a window for a pair of panels before this big splash panel on page 3 where this assassin who's narrating falls through this giant glass ceiling window straight down toward Batman.
Yeah. And basically, this story is it is a nameless, League of Assassins member, right? Who talks about how his job as called by Ra's al Ghul is to land a single hit on Batman. That's all he has to do to be successful. Is
Yes.
land a single hit. And he talks about how, if he went up against Batman by himself, how amazing Batman fights, and if he went up against Batman by himself, how he would, just embarrass him, basically.
Yeah.
But that's not his role. That's not what all he has to do is score a single hit. And so he does. And then, he gets defeated. But he talks about how him landing his one hit is just his part in what will be this, long, long thing of wearing Batman down and eventually defeating him.
Yep.
And like so it's just that one point of view, and it's just a super different, weird point of view story, and I like it.
Then we move on to a J.H. Williams piece. He wrote and drew the story. Also, just the B cover for this he did, and that is the
Yeah.
cover I got because it is like I love Capullo,
Yeah.
but this B cover is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, the art in this story in particular is just pretty damn amazing. I mean, all the art is good, which it should be because that's kind of the point of this. But this one, there's something. This one had probably more than any other a very noir type feel to me.
Well, I think Williams does layout incredibly well.
Yep.
And that contributes to it. And then he also plays in this story plays a lot with style to sort of show over the years but for Batman by using the history of comics different art styles to show time progression.
Yep. You know what's odd though is, and we will get to it eventually, as cool as all of the layout and playing with the art and all that was in this book, it did not have my favorite layout piece of this week.
Which I think speaks to just the focus of this book is on the art.
It is.
So that you can have J.H. Williams doing layouts but still top that somewhere for you.
Yeah.
Like that is, I think, just a testament to the strength of the creators on this book, the artists on this book.
Agreed.
The next one up, and this is where we realized while planning for the episode, the table of contents has the stories in one order, but they're actually in the book in a different order.
Yep.
The next one up is a Paul Dini, Andy Kubert story called First Flight.
Mm-hmm.
This was another one I enjoyed.
I did too. It's exactly what I would expect from a Paul Dini Batman story, which is okay.
Well, and I think the thing that's so impressive to me about this one, normally for me, black and white comics tend to be pretty hit or miss.
Right.
And the first two stories use gray tones a lot to help distinguish depth of field and all of that, which is the thing that I struggle with in just black and white lineup that's drawn to be colored.
Right.
Andy Kubert does not use, I think, gray at all in this story.
I do not think there's a single bit of gray. It is all line shading.
Yeah. There are some speech balloons, text boxes on the last page that are gray toned, but in the art itself, it is 100% black and white, and I think pulling off depth of field with just black and white is a feat.
Yeah, and he does it.
Yeah.
I think, and I know a part of it is the fact that there aren't colors. So because I know the coloration would be so different for the two characters.
Yeah.
But because it's in black and white, did you have a real Elsa Bloodstone feel when Talia showed up here?
You know what? As you say, I think it's 100% the fact that she is carrying a large gun.
Oh yeah. And just like kind of how she's looking up and like just there's just a But like it would totally not work if it were colored, right? Because their coloration is so different.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, just kind of struck.
Then we get to Sisyphus, which is written and drawn by Emma Rios.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is more along the lines of I mean, it almost feels abstract. It almost feels poetic.
I was going to say, this feels like a poem.
Yeah.
It very much does. Yeah.
And like the art and lettering, and this is Steve Wands on letters, but like the placement of text in this, I think, is so important here.
It is. and this whole the art style in this is just very, it almost, I would describe it, if you could think of stream of consciousness in art, it would be this.
Well, it's like a dream, right? It's like
Yeah,
following dream logic.
yeah, and it just kind of melts and flows one thing into another, and yeah.
And worth noting here, Rios also does not use any gray. She
I
sticks to black and
Yep,
white as well.
yep.
I realized while reading, so I've read Emma Rios before, like Pretty Deadly is Emma Rios on art.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I realized in reading this, I need to see some Emma Rios Swamp Thing.
Oh, that would be really, really cool.
Like, give me a 5-issue Swamp Thing miniseries with Emma Rios at least on art.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the last one, which is probably like this. This is probably in my top 2 for the stories in here.
Yep.
Metamorphosis, written by G. Willow Wilson, with art by Greg Smallwood.
Yep.
And this feels so much. You mentioned a noir vibe in.
Oh yeah, this
in
too. Yeah.
J.H. Williams, but this definitely feels like it was lit and shot in black and white for film. Like, it is so carefully controlled in terms of the tones on the page.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I think there's only one shade of gray in this.
Like, yeah, there is gray, but it's all the gray is the same tone of gray. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So essentially, it's 3 color, right? It's black, white, and that single gray. Yeah.
And Waylon in an apron is, I need that action figure. Like, give me Waylon in an apron at a stove with a frying pan and a big wooden spoon.
Sure.
Put Todd McFarlane's Toy Company on that, please.
I no surprise, G. Willow Wilson, that I love this story.
Yeah.
On the whole, really, really good, different, unique book, and I like that. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Dark Knights, Death Metal, the last stories of the DC Universe one-shot. The further we get into this series, the longer the titles.
Yeah. You know what, though? I'm okay. I absolutely loved how they laid out and told these stories. Like, the stories in and of themselves were, some of them I thought were really good. So, like, but separate from that, like, all of them acknowledge the other, and they all take place, at the same time, and we're given that grounding in these. Like, they are able to reference each other, not like in a like a story way, but just in a grounding way.
Yeah, well, like, this is all a single night. It's
Correct.
very much the sort of storytelling device, the classic sort of storytelling device of everyone the night before they go off to war.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I also absolutely loved some of these stories.
Yeah. Let's skip the Titans first, since it bookends the issue.
That's what I was going to say. All I want to say is that the Titan story that we will talk about does bookend the issue, so understand that it opens with that and closes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then we come to, after the first half of that, Green Lantern in Last Nights, with a K, by Jeff Lemire and Raphael Albuquerque.
I think I read through this without paying attention that this was Jeff Lemire.
Uh-huh.
And this is the kind of Green Lantern story that usually I don't care for, which is Hal just kind of mostly like a Hal being by himself prepping for something, and those tend to be just overdone, kind of.
Yeah.
Had I realized it was Jeff Lemire doing it, I probably would have gone, okay, yeah, this. I probably shouldn't approach it with that attitude, and I would have been right to do that, because this was amazing.
I was thinking about the same kind of thing while I read it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a reason why it works so well.
Yeah.
I think what Lemire has done here is say, okay, what is the one thing Hal wants? He wants to fly, period.
Yep.
So what would ground him? And the whole issue, or the whole story, is really about this one, like, what is something that would bring him back down to Earth?
Right.
And it's the weight of the Corps and Sinestro and its whole history, and what lets him fly again is looking forward instead of to the past.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole lot in this, and essentially I guess this would be the theme that runs through this, right? Is that it's not like you forget everything that came before, right? But everything that came before at this point kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What the only thing that matters is right now and what we may be able to pull out of this.
Yeah.
Right. And so in that, basically, Hal shows up. He's like, I just want to fly, and he goes to the Valley of the Rainbow Rings, which, if you know, is like in all the big battles between all the lanterns and everything. Essentially, it's where all of the spent power rings and thousands and thousands of them, right,
Mm-hmm.
are gathered. And so basically, it's like a memorial to the fallen of all the Green Lanterns, is essentially what it's become, right? And while he's there, Sinestro shows up.
Yeah.
And Hal's like, "What the hell are you doing here? I can't believe you would come and confront me on tonight, when did it?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's not why I'm here." And Hal's like, "Wait, you wanna?" And like he comes to a realization, and he has a moment, and Sinestro's like, "Yeah, I get that I don't deserve it, and that's fine," and turns to walk away. And Hal comes to that realization of, what's in the past at this point doesn't matter, and basically forgives Sinestro and gives him a green ring.
Yeah.
Because Sinestro wants to fight this last battle as a Green Lantern.
Which I think is a really nice, like, as much as, especially in New 52 era, Sinestro sort of struggled with hero versus villain versus might for right versus whatever.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
seeing him come back to that, I think, is a nice piece.
So he takes the green and he says the Green Lantern oath, right?
Yeah.
And then he makes a comment that is basically after he finishes and the green ring is charged and he's wearing a green. I'd forgotten what it feels like to not be afraid. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool.
The other thing along the same lines that is in here is
Yeah.
there are a couple of moments where Hal mentions looking for blue, like finding the blue in the sky and
Yes.
What is the Blue Lantern Corps?
Yeah, isn't it Hope?
It's Hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we move on to a Wonder Woman story by Mariko Tamaki.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Samperi and Adriano Lucas are on art. They did some issues of Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad.
Yeah. Yep.
And we get Diana and Riddler, which is a pairing that I'm not sure I've ever seen before.
Well, and he mentions that
he mentions
too,
we
right?
never talk.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but essentially, because she has a conversation with Hippolyta, and she has a conversation with Riddler, and then she has a conversation with a Donna Troy from a different Earth.
Yeah.
And essentially, all of them are causing her to think about what do you have to do to be prepared for this battle, right?
Yeah.
And the realization is there's nothing I can particularly do. Like, there's not a combat training sequence I can go through or any of that. Literally, it's just preparing myself and realizing what I'm trying to fight for, and that's it. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've got a whole lot to say there. I think
Yeah.
it says what it wants to, and there's not a lot to sort of add or pick apart. It's very precise. The art is absolutely gorgeous.
Um. Then we get a Green Arrow Black Canary story.
This might have been my favorite in this entire book.
Here's the thing: when you say that, though, there's some others that are also so good. But you may be right. This is really, really good.
I stand by it. I think this one was my favorite.
Man, so it's Dinah and Ollie are spending their last night before the battle together.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is Gail Simone with Megan Hendrick on art and Marissa Louise on color.
Yeah. And it kind of starts out with them sitting there and talking about, they're asking, Ollie asked her if she has any regrets. And she was like, the only thing I can think of is I kind of always wanted an oath. Like, I was always a little jealous of the Green Lanterns that they had this oath that they could commit themselves to when they didn't, and he was like, oh, and he like makes this joke about it, right? Beware my noise, black canaries yell, right? She's like, and she's like, shut up, you dork, this. But then he's like, yeah, my only regret is that we kind of never had a real first date. We just kind of jumped into the relationship, right? Um, and so they kind of spend the next part of this trying to have that kind of first date where they talk through things and that kind of stuff. And
Which we also get a panel of, I think,
yep,
my favorite so far alternate take of a DC team
from Earth Goth.
from Earth
Yes.
Goth, the Gloom Patrol.
Yes, they're completely insufferable.
I need an ongoing, please.
Then so he for dinner he takes him down to basically the Amazon sea rations, basically their store of foods. Then they try to go for a walk on the beach and get assaulted by Joker sharks.
Joker Megalodons.
Megalodons, yes, I'm sorry, to be clear, yeah. And then they they go and they have a moment, and then Ollie gets down on one knee and she kind of stops, and he's like, so yeah, let's take care of that other regret. And he gets down on one knee and gives her an oath that clearly he's been thinking about.
Yeah.
And it's, I am the wall, I am the shield, and I do not run. I see the evil coming towards you, and I do not run. I stand between you and the darkness, and I do not run. So that's it. That's the oath. And yeah, so basically he's given her, that oath. And then she said, "Oh God, when you got down on one knee, I thought maybe you were gonna propose." And she's like, and not that I hate that idea, but like I don't want it to be like this. If I choose somebody to marry, I want it to be because there's hope in the world, not because it's the end of things. And he's like, well, good thing I wasn't asking.
Yeah. She
Right?
says, I want to be in a place of hope
Yeah.
with all the options in the world, and he still chooses me.
Yeah, exactly.
And then their
we get
gender
the
swapped
surprise.
alternate universe daughter shows up.
Yeah. Black Arrow shows up, Laurel Lance Queen, and wow, they're a little shocked by that, to say the least.
Yeah.
And what I love is Holly looks at it, he's like, shh, just let me look at you for a minute. Oh my God, you have your mama's eyes. You have canary eyes. And he's like, what's so funny? He's like, nothing. I just was a little different on my Earth. And we see that Dinah was Green Arrow and Ollie was Black Canary.
Yeah.
on her Earth. Right? Yes. And it's just a real touching moment where they all acknowledge that, it's odd and, she isn't their child, but still has a connection to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, there's some things that I love about this where, like, you know, Dinah goes up to her and she's like, I just want to say, and the daughter's like, I'm gonna fight with you. She's like, I know. You can't stop me. I know, but you're under my wing, so just stay close to me. Can we agree on that? She's like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's a reasonable thing, right?
Yeah.
And then Dinah repeats the oath, like as that, like it's just so good, right? And then we see that Ollie did have a ring and thought about proposing to her and realized that she was right. Yeah. So
then we move on to Aquaman. Written by Christopher Sabella, art by Christopher Mooneyham, colorist by Enrica Aaron Anglioni. And this is very much, this is Aquaman's journal, just explaining why he took the role of, like, sea captain for
Baphomet.
Yes.
Yeah. Baphomet. Sorry.
Baphomet. It's very much just kind of a, like, in his head, here is his logic sort of issue. The art is gorgeous. Like the coloring in particular,
Yes.
like the deep dark sea colors, I think are fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And essentially it's a letter that he's writing to Andy about why he made these choices.
Yeah.
Really good. The next one has the one that I'm most questioning if it's going to have an effect on status after this.
Yeah, so this is called The Bat Family. It's
Hmm.
written by Cecil Castellucci, art by Mirka Andolfo, colors by Andrew Dahlhaus.
This opening between Bruce and Barbara, I love.
Yes.
Right? So basically, it's Bruce going to Barbara, and he's like, she's like, the family's gathering if you want to come talk to us, this, that, and the other. And basically, Batman says, Barbara, you've always been a leader, and you see things differently than I do, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong. And I've underestimated you in the past, and for that, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like,
Yeah. This
and
feels
that's kind
very much like it's about closure in more,
exactly.
and I think more discreet ways, in
Hmm.
more like very specific ways than
Yep,
some of these other stories are.
agreed. So she goes and starts rounding up different members of the Bat family
Yeah.
to tell them, that we're meeting, whatever. Like she goes to Tim, and Tim is having playing poker with some villains, and cleaning their house, cleaning their clock because he's cheating. By the way,
Yeah.
I love it. And Jason Todd is like talking to one of the Mara on Themyscira, right? They're all on Themyscira. All of these stories take place there.
Yeah.
Um, and is talking to Mara, who is apparently like the weapons master
Mm-hmm.
on this island, and getting swords and guns and all, like, so Jason, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then she goes to find Dick, who is serving food to people, which is great, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is, Dick wants to have this conversation about, he wants to express how he really feels to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she is in a place where she's like, I can't, no, what you want to do is unburden yourself and give that burden to me.
And I think that's like I am 100% with Batgirl on this and think
Right.
it's a little ridiculous that Dick doesn't cut it out. And I have felt that way
Yeah.
anytime I have read the two of them
Right.
for the last 10 years.
Well, and the problem is, it's almost like, and I hate saying it this, it's almost like Dick wants to have his cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't want to fully commit to something, but he doesn't want her to not be there if he decides to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And
It
yeah,
does. Like the and I think there are so many tangents we could go on about
there.
like
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
treatment of
yeah.
Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon both as characters in comics over the last 10, 20, however many years.
Yes.
But like at some level I don't know that I've ever been given a reason to invest in them as a couple.
Right. And here's the idea. It's almost like I kind of feel like I don't hate the idea at all, but like if you're gonna do it, you need to commit to it.
Yeah, like that's why I say like that's one of the editorial tangents. Like there was a no marriages and maybe no relationships for certain characters rule in DC for a while.
Yep.
I don't know. The Dick and Barbara thing, it's like you said, I'm not against it either. I don't have any reason to believe it should actually work.
Yeah. Well, and then we get to the part that's so odd to me that they chose to include. Like they don't just bring this up and let that go. Um they had this thing about how, Batman basically brings everybody together and is talking about how, exactly what I said, the past doesn't matter so much. All that we need to concern ourselves with is tomorrow and what we can pull out of this, right?
Yeah.
And and then Barbara and Dick start arguing again, and he's like, maybe we should just, maybe we should talk this through tonight so that we are, and basically the same thing, right? And she's like, no, what you're saying is you want me to tell you how I feel and, you know, acknowledge that, and I can't take losing somebody again, right?
Yeah.
Like I just lost you, you've just come back, and now you want me to commit all my feelings to you. And Batman walks up and he's like, enough, quit arguing. He's like, I need you guys to just realize that the only thing that matters is how this ends. And Dick looks at Barbara and says, the end? Okay, then Barbara, marry me. And she's like, wait, is that where you think we end? He says, don't you? And she's like, well, yeah, I guess I do. And then Batman says, okay, well, then by the power vested in me by nobody, you're married. It's done.
Yeah.
And so, like, they're like, okay, then I guess we're married just for tonight. And, we'll be together and express our feelings and whatever, but like it doesn't hold if we make it out of this, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing: I 100 totally percent get the thoughts behind, this is our last night alive. Consequences be damned. Thinking, like, I
Yeah.
think that's one of the most natural places to go, and in human logic and emotion. But it just feels odd for these two a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Anyway.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Mark Waid and Francis Manipool then do Superman.
Yep.
Superman makes himself a time turner so he can
Yes,
save everyone and still have time to see his family.
Yep. It's the most Superman answer to this.
And
Yeah.
all I could think of while reading this, and don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this, but all I could think of while reading it was the Flash asking Superman, "How do you handle work-life balance?" And I'm
Right.
like, "Oh, so badly, so very badly,
So
actually."
horribly. Yeah. Okay. So the very last page of this. Can you have it where you can look?
Yes,
The top panel on the last page of this story.
absolutely
It
gorgeous.
it is. Is it not? Does it not very much give you a Dark Knight vibe?
With you saying that, like the Dark Knight,
Like
the
the
cover to
Frank
the
Miller.
yeah,
Yeah. Like the
with
Superman version of that kind of.
with you saying it, I
Yeah.
absolutely see it. I don't think I would have gone there by myself.
I don't. I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it just, and I don't think it's exactly that. I think it's more like, if anything, it would have been like an homage type to that, right? But
Like
it's so good.
there's enough of it there that when you said, "Do you get a?" and then paused for a moment,
Yeah.
I did complete it as, "Oh, he's going to say the Dark Knight."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I knew where you were going once you started the question, so I think there's definitely something there. I don't think if questioned I would have made the
Right.
connection, or
Okay.
if not questioned.
Then we get the conclusion. So the other side of the bookend for the Titan
Yeah.
one.
So the Titan story is basically Titan's beach party,
Sure. Sure.
which I love, I dig. So this is Josh Williamson, James Tynan, and Scott Snyder on art. Travis Moore, I'm sorry, on writing. Travis Moore on art, and Tamara Bonvillain on colors.
And it is probably like, maybe other than the Ollie and Dinah one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably the most kind of realistic, what I think would happen,
Agreed.
in that basically all the people who have ever been Titans of any kind of all gather together to kind of talk through and reminisce and share their friendship with each other and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's everyone from, the OG Titans to, Crush and Red Arrow and all of the ones that Robin just took off from.
Yeah.
And there's it centers, or is focused on the point of view of Donna Troy.
Yes.
Which is, I like that we have a character to follow through this, right?
Yeah, and I like that we saw Donna. I mean, granted, a different version of Donna in the
Sure.
Wonder Woman, but like in more than one story here, there's been enough Donna in this and in a couple of other death metal issues
Mm-hmm.
that like I feel like they're this close, and this is an audio medium. My fingers are obviously very close together. They're this close to like anchoring something on Donna going forward.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm kind of waiting for that payoff.
God, man, I can't tell you how much I'd love that.
I mean, if the whole point of the event is everything matters, and Donna Troy, asterisk, maybe not the New 52 Rebirth version, but historically, Donna Troy is the one who remembers every version of the past, it stands to reason that she's got to be central to what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and I love how she talks about when I first joined the Titans, it wasn't about fighting bad guys or giant cosmic battles. So we really just wanted to hang out with kids our own age who knew what it was like to be around these larger than life heroes.
Yeah.
And if you've ever read like the original formate, like that totally is what it is. That's why it was all the sidekick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Like they just wanted somebody else who kind of understood them.
Yeah. And how much sense would it make? And I know we know this is happening, but
Sure.
how much sense would it make for then the people who've been in that position to create an institution that took in younger here? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I love it.
I'm very excited for that book.
Yeah, and then she goes and runs into Garth and Dick, and they have a conversation, and then somebody shows up, and that's where the break is.
Yeah,
She's like, somebody, we see this sound effect, and then it's like, oh, dude, what's he doing here? And Starfire's like, why is everyone so tense, Raven? She's like, we should talk, Corey. And then Donna turns and is like, what's everyone? And we see Wally has shown up.
yeah,
And we just see the look on Donna's face, and that's where we break for all these other stories to happen.
yeah.
So if you are Corey and you don't know this why this would be a thing, I refer you to Heroes in Crisis.
Yes, because Wally West killed Red Arrow.
Yeah. And so this is probably my second part of this book that I loved, and that is knowing nobody forgets who other people are just because of events, right? Yeah, we see Donna look at him, and Donna starts, and I love Crush. Crush makes, as Donna's walking to him, Crush is like, yeah, my money's on the Amazon. Right?
Yeah.
And as she walks up to him, she doesn't say a word, and Wally starts to like say, I don't know how to even say how sorry I am, and it starts trying to but like can't find words, right? And Donna just hugs him.
Yeah.
Like she knows there is no way she could say anything that would not make him feel how worse than he already feels about what happened.
Yeah.
And doesn't forget who he is, right? And like, yeah. And given the situation that they're in, what else are you going to do except forgive him?
Yeah. And then everyone else remembers what I was thinking. Batman has the Black Lantern ring, and Dead Arrow shows up.
Dead Arrow. Yeah. Rory, zombie Rory. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Roy shows up and he's like, you didn't think I was going to miss this fight, do you? And I love there's no conversation between Wally and Roy, but Roy looks over and sees him and just like tips his hat. Like, yeah, there's something here and we probably can't deal with it. But yeah, yeah. Ugh. And then we get the other thing I love is we get this page where she's talking about what she realized that she was, because Donna was kind of by herself when this started, and Beast Boy comes up and finds her, right, to bring her to this party, and we see Batman and the Bat Family and Flash show up to talk to Wally, and like all of the everybody that's on Themyscira, right, start showing up, and we see these panels of the Bat Family, and we see Sinestro and Hal come in as Green Lanterns, both of them, right? And we see um, Arthur and Mara and Andy together, like so, and we see Ollie and Dinah kiss, right? Like, so we see all of these stories, like we see this whole thing, like, yeah, this was all happening right now, and this is it. And what Donna came to realize, what she spelled out on the beach, was together.
Yeah.
Which is the name of this short story, right?
And it's the whole Titans thing, right? Titans
it is.
together.
Titans together, right? And she's like, what I realize is that we're never alone. We, yeah. So good. So good. And this leads right into Death Metal number 6.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Third and
that was long, but like so good, so good.
Third and final anthology book, and I'm going to keep this one to the highlights. DC's Very Merry Multiverse. There were 10 stories in here. And highlights for me were John Layman and Danny on Christmas by Gaslight, which is a Gotham by Gaslight universe story about Plastic Man trying to pull a heist on Christmas and accidentally delivering all the toys and creating a white Christmas. I enjoy John Layman in general. The thing that really elevates this for me is Danny's art and coloring. Just it is so like fluid and watercolor and sketchy and like, especially for a Plastic Man story, everything kind of having a sort of loose vibe fits really well. And that's against the very like architectural style of that world. Like she does both, and I think splits the uprights really well.
Yeah.
And her coloring does a lot, I think, to help reinforce that. Another one I want to point out is it is called To Stop the Star Conqueress, starring Teen Justice. This is written by Ivan Cohen, artist by Eleonora Carlini, colors by Ulysses Areola. This is set on Earth 11, where all the heroes' genders are swapped. And I want to point this out for two reasons. One, it's just a lot of fun, and I like the art in it a great deal. But two, this is sort of our introduction to Kid Quick, the
right.
Their aunt is Jesse Quick, who is this Earth's Flash, and they are the Flash who was on the Justice League Future State roster.
Yep.
The other kind of like surprising breakout star of this to me is what is her name? Clarion, the Witch Girl.
The Witch Girl.
Yep.
Son of Clarion, the Witch Boy.
Yep.
I do like her. I'm looking at her now. Yes.
Yeah. And this is about like Starro trying to take over the world on the count of midnight on New Year's Eve. David F. Walker and Gustavo Duarte do a Bizarro story that is about President Superman making a holiday about connecting with other people and Bizarro feeling left out. Duarte drew that Bizarro series a few years ago that I loved and mention occasionally. And this one is a delight. And I think the other one that really stood out for me, especially because I'm a big Booster Gold fan, is a Booster Gold story called 'Twas the Night, written by Brittany Holzer, with art by Todd Knock and colors by Hi-Fi. This is set on Christmas Eve in a Planet Krypton restaurant, the chain of restaurants where everyone dresses as superheroes that apparently Booster Gold owns on this Earth. Of course he does. And they're short-staffed, so they call him in to help staff. And then Maxwell Lord shows up to rob the place and start a fight. And we find out, no, the whole thing was staged by Booster and Lord so that they could like get extra tips and whatnot for the servers and staff who were stuck waiting that night. Like, they staged this big fight, let the servers save Booster, and then all the patrons tip heavily. Like, it's the most Booster Gold ass plot in that it's super contrived and goofy, but also so sweet.
So I'm looking through the story right now. I'm not just imagining that I'm seeing this, right? This is Forbush Girl right here, right?
I think it's supposed to be the Red Tornado, but 100% I see Forbush.
I mean, she got a pot on her head with eye holes in it.
Yeah, but she's also got a Red Tornado on her.
Yeah, okay, but like, here's the deal. If you wear an actual legit pot on your head with eye holes in it, you are Forbush somebody.
Okay, fine. She's the Forbush girl. I'll allow it. I thought the same thing.
The Red Forbush NATO, I guess. I don't know. But yeah.
I thought the same thing and talked myself out of it. So
well, to be fair though, I am looking, and we do have an ice, as in fire and ice. An ice with a magic lasso and an animal man with a Harley hammer. And so,
that's because they grab, like, at one point they grab all the superhero weapons that are on display and start using them. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I'm just, yeah.
No, it's a fun, goofy ass story. I love it. It's so Booster Gold.
Yeah, great. Yeah, all right. Okay.
All right. let's check in on Endless Winter.
So we get 2 issues in the story moving forward.
Yep,
This week we have
Flash
Flash
767
and a
and
Superman Endless Winter special.
exactly.
Yeah.
And each of these issues follows, I think, kind of a similar structure. We get a little bit of the history of the Justice League Viking, as we're calling them. Back in the 10th century, the first time that the Frost King showed up. And in Superman, we kind of see sort of the origin of the Frost King.
Yes.
Then each of these issues spends time with their title characters just kind of dealing with the destruction and being at a loss for the scale of it.
Right.
Black Adam manages to steal the show, I think, in the Flash issue, which I
Agreed.
appreciate.
Yeah.
He's very hit or miss for me normally and works super well here.
Yep. He can be done very well or very not so well. Yeah.
He's like Namor. He's Desert Namor, basically.
You know what? I will 100% agree with you. He is Desert Namor.
Him supercharging the Flash, like, there's the part of me that goes, that shouldn't work, and there's the other part of me that's much louder that goes, but I don't care. That's just fucking cool.
That's just awesome. Yeah, sure. I'm down for it.
Yeah. And that's kind of our revelation for the Flash issue, more or less, is that
it is. Yeah.
Black Adam is connected to things and has knowledge that he's not sharing and is scheming some. We also learn that the would-be benevolent dictators of the island nation from the first issue of this are now refugees in Kahndaq.
Yes.
And working with Black Adam.
Yep. And then again in the Superman one, we get 2 things. We get the as you mentioned, the origin of the Frost King, kind of, and then we get an article written by Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Which is essentially her telling the world how this is affecting Superman.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I like Lois Lane leading the escape from the powerless Daily Planet building to go find refuge.
Yep.
I like that a lot. We also get at the end of this, I like the art in this one a lot too.
I do too.
The art and coloring. This is, I believe, Phil Hester with
Phil Hester and Andy Parks.
Phil Hester and Andy Parks. Oh, you know what? The
colors.
Okay, the flashback is Marco Santucci.
Ah, there it is.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes.
All good though. I love all of it.
Big fan of the art in this one.
Yeah.
And I like the Lois scene. I like the scene of Superman back home with Ma and Pa Kent. And then we get in Gotham a check-in with Brian's new favorite supervillain.
Sebastian
Stagg.
Stagg, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we learn that they've been studying the chunk of debris, icy debris. And maybe there's not stuff in the ice so much as 3 living creatures.
Sebastian Stagg is DC's most X-Men villain feeling character they have.
Ooh, that's a good way of putting it, yes.
Right? He feels like he would be a mutant character from Marvel.
If he and Sebastian Shaw met, they would be fast friends.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And just like even his aesthetic, the man bun and the tattoo on the face, it just all works. Yeah.
So these 3 creatures frozen in ice, it's definitely Viking Prince and a couple of other Justice League Viking characters, right?
Possibly the other people that made me think would be like his family, right?
Oh, that could be.
Yeah, that would be the only other way I could link. I thought both of those, and I'm like, guess it could be either one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this will continue this week in Aquaman.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Flashpoint #1.
I think I've said mostly enough about all these Tales from the Dark Multiverse stuff. I really like the unique take they're doing. They're not just making it an AU where they do the obvious thing.
Yeah.
This one in particular is another one that just really runs with changing that and like how it can affect characters differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, like because basically what happens is if you know, and I know you do, in Flashpoint where Barry goes to Bruce, right, and gets him to help him get struck with lightning to create his powers,
Yeah.
right? Well, in this one, instead of Flash getting his powers, Flash is dead. Flash gets Barry Allen gets killed, and Eobard Thawne is drawn into this world.
Oh no.
Yes, and basically he goes through and just trashes kind of everybody that would put up a resistance, but keeps Thomas Wayne alive because Thomas Wayne is now the only person who knows this world is not what it should be,
Hmm.
right? And you know, basically tells how he created the president, the person that's the president now, by whispering in all the right ears, kind of as we've seen that he has done, right?
Yeah.
Um, and basically, so we now have this triumvirate of powers where it's the Amazons controlling Europe and Aquaman controlling all of the England and all of the seas, and Thawne controlling the United States, and basically tells them to back off. And then when they kind of don't, he goes and kills Aquaman and says, "Okay, now here's the message I'm giving to you: back off." And yeah, and then things go, you know, take big turns from there. But
Yeah.
like, I like how I guess the right way to say this is I like how far they take these changes,
Yeah, that makes
right?
sense.
And Flashpoint in particular is a good one because it was so different anyway. Like
Right.
they made so many big changes anyway in it, and this takes it even further, and I love it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Crossover number 2. So, Brian, I want to open with a question here.
Okay, I think it's the question I was going to answer anyway. So yeah.
The last time we talked about this book, you were not sure if you liked it or not.
I believe my comment exactly was, I think I like this book, but I'm not sure.
Yes.
I am now sure that I do indeed like this book. Yes.
So,
And it's not just that they kill Brian K. Vaughan in it.
no. Brian K. Vaughan, the first page of this issue is a newscast breaking in to say Brian K. Vaughan, acclaimed Marvel Comics writer, has been found brutally murdered today in his palatial New York home. And on the Chiron, comic book writer found dead. 14th comic book writer to be found dead in the last 3 weeks. Chip Zdarsky, Scott Snyder, and Robert Kirkman still missing.
Yeah. Well, and then the comment of the comic book shop owner who sees this is like, "Holy shit, BKV! What the wait? Marvel writer? Really? That's how you?" And then it
Yeah.
stops. Like that is 100% Donny Cates just poking fun at stuff.
Yeah.
Come on.
I also appreciated where Brian K. Vaughan, through the Panel Syndicate Twitter account, did tweet at Cates when the preview for this dropped with like, that's not how you spell my name. There's a second A in Vaughn. Chip Zdarsky and Scott Snyder on Twitter decided they're in hiding together somewhere.
I love it. I love it.
But I love, so we get that broadcast and we get the sort of unreliable, unfocused narration from the first issue that I just adore. It's like, I probably shouldn't have brought this up. This actually happens later. Don't worry about it right
Yeah, this is more of a second arc storyline, actually. You know what? I shouldn't have even brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we start checking in with our characters, right?
Yes.
Who are
We have Ellie comes to check in on the comic shop owner.
Yep.
And we see
Otto, right?
Yeah. We then see
Ava.
What is the guy's name?
You're talking about the son?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm looking through. Ryan.
Thank you. Right, because it's short for Orion.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. We see Ryan getting arrested for blowing up the comic shop. And get the reminder that the two of them will fall in love at some point, Ryan and Ellie.
So these we get with these and we got this in the last issue too, right? These editorial boxes that's like oh yeah, I don't the one that's like I don't know if I should be talking about this now, and then about oh right when these two fall in love and all. Is this the superhero character that can see the future?
I wondered the same thing. If
Okay,
this is the person who writes the letter.
right, because we
Yeah.
later in this story we find out there's somebody who can. There's a superhero whose power they can see the future, and they're like assisting the government kind of.
Yeah.
And it really strikes me like that's the only person that would have this knowledge, right?
Yeah, I mean that or yeah, like
Right.
clearly to whoever's speaking though, whatever has happened has already happened, maybe. So
Yeah,
it
who
could
knows?
just
Who
be
knows? Who knows?
but
Yeah.
that's this is why I like an unreliable narrator.
I know, me too.
Even if it's just sort of existentially unreliable. Like way to thread the needle on omniscient and unreliable.
I know, right? But essentially we find out so Ryan is, was arrested for torching the comic book shop.
Yeah.
And basically we find out that he's getting pulled to meet this person named Nathan, who is you know, the Men in Black guy that leads up everything investigating the event, which is, all of these superheroes appearing.
Yeah. Nathaniel Abrams Pendleton.
Like the most, yeah.
And all Ryan wants to do is just turn himself in, confess, be done with it. He feels terrible and does not want his father or his attorneys involved at all.
Right.
Go
ahead.
I was gonna say, I love Pendleton. Pendleton has no fucks to give.
Nope.
And is apparently really nice unless he needs to be an asshole just to attain pecking order.
Yeah.
And he's like,
or to get his job done. He will do.
His basic vibe is, nah, fuck it. I don't know what's going on. This is the best information I've got to work with. All I can do is buy into the bullshit, because clearly the bullshit is real. So, here, you know everything I do. Do what you want, but frankly, it's either do what I'm asking or I have to disappear you, and I don't want to deal with that.
He's like the most realistic person of, none of this shit is real, but apparently it is, so this is how I got to deal with it.
And it's this really specific voice that he has that, if written even slightly differently, would sound just intimidating and coercive and terrible, but really just kind of comes across as efficient and a little harried and a little fed up, maybe, but in a why is the world this way? I don't know, but this is what I got to work with, so I am.
Yeah.
Kind of way.
Yep.
We also learn about the superhero prisons.
Correct.
And we see Batman and the Thing and some others incarcerated.
We
learn that most of the superheroes actually are okay with it and really just want to go home and, like, more or less turn themselves in and voluntarily stay imprisoned.
Right. And they
for
have
safety.
And they have these lights that drain their powers.
Yep.
But that there's this one character, and they don't tell us who it is, that these light draining things do not stop their powers, and this is the person who can see things before they happen.
Yes. Who has written a letter for Ryan.
Right.
Basically apologizing in advance and recognizing, as far as first act setups go, this one is fairly hacky. I know. But you're just going to have to believe me on this one. And tells him he's got to go to the dome. You'll know what to do when you get there. Wish I could say it's going to be easy. I wish you didn't have to do it. But this is what you were put here to do. If it helps, you won't be alone. Give Ellie my love. And kind of goes on a little bit past that.
And also with this letter is a gun and a bullet that is made of this same stuff of the light that drains their power that can apparently kill any superhero that it shoots.
Which has a real kryptonite vibe to it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
We then learn that Ellie had been living in the comic shop.
Mm-hmm. I love that she's still got her domino mask on this whole time.
Yeah, same. And she had assumed that Ava's parents were under the dome, and learns they're being kept in basically basically a regular unpowered comic book person concentration camp.
Comic books bystanders, yes.
Yeah. Where people are being pulled out for testing, Most of them don't come back. The ones that do come back
different.
traumatized, basically.
Yeah, I mean it's all the worst things you can imagine in an
Yeah.
internment camp. Sure.
So Ellie decides, all right, we'll help Ava somehow. We don't know how to do that, so maybe if we go back, we can find the person who got her out, and he can help us get in or help us tear this thing down.
And we find out part of Ellie's motivation is that on the day this happened, she got separated from her parents.
Yeah.
And so she's hoping that either in the dome or somehow, somewhere, they're still alive.
Yeah. And then we find out maybe Ava is not quite all she seems on the surface.
Or she is and is developing powers that she didn't know about, which are not so great. Yeah. This is all so good.
Yeah, I love this book so much.
Like, it plays on all the best parts of what the hell would happen if comic book people turned out to be real. Like, if we really are one of an alternate Earth that exists in the multiverse that is comic book multiverses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like and don't get me wrong, the art, we have not talked really about the art this time. It's Jeff Shaw and Dee Kniff on color. The art in this remains gorgeous.
Yes. Specifically the colors again.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Speaking of excellent books with absolutely gorgeous arts, especially the colors, Homesick Pilots #1.
Oh god. Okay, so I almost didn't get to this before we recorded.
And then you realized how much I would have yelled at you?
I would have been absolutely horrified had on it, because this is maybe my favorite book of the week.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have been so excited for this and absolutely adored it.
It is Dan Waters writing and Casper Weingard as the art.
Yep. Including colors.
Yeah. And yes, and don't forget to mention the colors, because they play a huge part of this, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy Wingard's art just in general.
I do too.
But the way he has colored this book is so
like
vibrant.
Yeah, and like the color changes that happen, and like that just the white outline of characters against certain things, and like it's just so cool. I love it so much.
I mean, things like subtle choices to, you know, we'll be in a scene, say, on like a pier, a boardwalk, something like that, and we'll get these like nice, rich skies and this sort of like moonlit, lamplit, washed out colors.
You know what?
But then an important moment will happen, and it's just, all right, we care about the action, so let's take everything to solid color background, solid color background. Here's a gradient. Here's like a solid color with just like a splash between these two characters who are staring at each other enraged.
There's a part of this that gives me a little bit of Paper Girls.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Yeah, I think in the more saturated, I mean, maybe not even the more saturated, but I think there is something that's very, like, we're seeing the same blues and pinks and very rich color palettes.
I think that might be what it is.
That you get from Matthew Wilson.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot of like really conscious pulling back in using single colored backgrounds in just the right moment to make you focus on a facial expression or posture or something like that instead of the more cinematic image.
So I just want to point out we open with this picture of this house on July 18th, 1994, which was my 25th birthday.
Excellent.
And so now I love this book even more. But yeah, essentially we get the story of these three teens who are in a band.
The Homesick Pilots.
The Homesick Pilots, who have gone to see another band called The Last Nuclear Bastard, who have decided to put on this punk show in an abandoned bowling alley that just closed a couple weeks ago.
Also, I wanna Dan Waters, thank you. Thank you for just putting a text balloon that says some shitty derivative trash shit. I really appreciate because this book's tone allows for it, just saying, "Nah, this shit doesn't matter. Don't worry, it's bad, and that's all that matters."
You know what else this reminds me of?
What's that?
Quantum Teens or Go.
I thought a little bit about that too.
But essentially, what we get is our homesick pilot band has seen this show and basically decided that if they're going to one up this for their show, they've got to do something special. And so they decide that maybe they should do it in this haunted house called the James House.
Because while the band was terrible, like the atmosphere and environment of the show was awesome.
Right, in this abandoned bowling alley that like that was great.
Yeah.
How do we top that, right? And then we see a confrontation basically between these two bands. And clearly the lead singer of the Nuclear Bastards is indeed a bastard because he's awful. He's an asshole. And then I don't know what, I guess if I went back, I could probably see what instrument she played. Looks like she plays the bass, the bassist. Is pretty cool and doesn't like that there's so much animosity between these two bands, right?
Yeah. I think of the other members of the Nuclear Bastards, like, she is the one who seems to be a decent human.
Exactly. Yeah, and by the way, I guess I should say our kind of protagonist is Amita or Amy, right? As they call her, and she is the one who was pushing for this. Maybe we should do this in the haunted house.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of has a bad night and decides to go check it out on her own first. So the band has to go looking for her the next day because she has gone missing.
Yeah.
Then we get to the page that is my favorite layout thing of the week.
Is this the solid black page with just letters across it?
It is not. No.
I forget who. I'm sure I saw it probably because Aditya Bidikar retweeted it. But someone tweeted about how there are very few letterers who they feel like they would trust to letter on a black page, and that he's one of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you know what? That really does track.
I mean, we do have this beautiful page of this 4-panel page of the house with the different backgrounds, because that's just beautiful by itself. But then 2 pages later is the spread that I'm talking about, which is essentially the 2 other band members of the Homesick Pilots climbing up and breaking in the 3rd floor of this house.
Yes.
Simultaneously, so it is a big 2-page spread. We see a cutaway of the house and all the different rooms in the house, right? So as they climb up and go in the 3rd story and walk across the 3rd story and then go down to the 2nd story, we get the Nuclear Bastards breaking in the back window of a house in the kitchen and walking across the floor of the house, the ground floor, and going up the stairs to the 2nd floor. And then they meet in the middle.
Yeah.
In the middle room of the middle floor. And it's like, okay, that's really, really cool.
It's really satisfying, right?
It is. Yeah.
Like, rooms as panels and place in house as time. Like, but also just in a very visceral, like, why are the most memorable family circus cartoons the dotted line across a neighborhood?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just satisfying to see someone's path through space.
I guess so. Yeah.
Like, a static image that shows linear progression is, I think, just satisfying at a gut level.
I think so. It's like I said, it's super cool. I love it. And then we find out the Nuclear Bastards have followed them here because the lead singer, who is the dick, wants to rob one of the Homesick Pilots of his bag of weed.
Yes.
And literally stabs him in the shoulder. And then the house kind of starts in and essentially, kills him, to be honest.
Yeah, like all the pipes bust out of the walls and ceilings and just pincushion him.
Yeah. And then one of them wraps around the other asshole of the Nuclear Bastards and pops his head off.
Once you pop, the fun don't stop.
To which everybody else decides, I guess we need to get the fuck out, and tries to start doing that and figure out they may not be able to get out. And by the way, they have not found Amy anywhere in this house so far.
Nope, Amy definitely appears to be missing.
Yeah. And that kind of is the end of our story with them in the house, and then we get a cutaway to a new scene. Who is somebody who is clearly a movie star, a rising teen star,
Yep.
or young adult. I can't, age is kind of a little hard to determine. Who talks about how she was just drawn to this horseshoe that she found in this weird shop, and how it made her so lucky, and like now she has a movie career and all this, and they walk out and the horseshoe is floating, and Amy shows up with ghostly white hair and says, "Yeah, by the way, that horseshoe got stolen from a house, and it wants it back now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also look. There's this weird little payoff, and I don't know that it's even the most noticeable thing early on, or if it's just my weird brain that
Nope,
sees
I
a t-shirt
totally
under a
did
jacket
it
and is like,
too.
"What is the word on
The
that shirt?"
whole time I was like, I've got to know what this shirt says.
Well, yeah, from like page 2, 3, or page 4, I
Yeah.
guess it is. So page 4, the first time we see like Amy at the last Nuclear Bastards show, like the only thing I could see on her shirt is like OLE and part of an M, and like CLAY part of an M, and I'm like,
Right.
is
Like
that
you got
something about a?
clay.
Yeah, like I see clay, and I'm like, okay, golem. Is this a joke on like a golem, and the house is?
Yeah.
And then in the very last panel, her jacket is like down from her shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
and she is wearing a shirt for, I guess, a band called Golem and the Claymen.
Yes.
Which is such a weird little detail, I know, to like call out, but that's the kind of planning and stuff in this book. Just that attention to detail and intentionality, I think, is part of why it is so good.
This is a great book.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Captain Marvel number 24.
Turns out Namor's son is just as big of a dick as he is.
So early in this issue, he mentions, he's talking to Bridget. He's like, yeah, I'm part Asgardian too. And I'm like, oh, there's no way that can be good. And then the first time we see like the flashback of his mother with just silhouette and blonde hair, I'm like, oh no, I know who this is. This is why everyone is mind controlled.
Yep. Yeah.
I was not expecting that, and how terrifying is the idea of Namor and the Enchantress as a couple.
Yeah, that's like a power couple you just don't want to see.
No.
No.
Like, Namor with someone giving him that many bad ideas is bad news.
So our band is basically being treated as a guest, right, in this new Atlantis.
I feel like there are quotation marks around guest.
Of course there is, because I was going to say it's 100%. They're not actually guests. Like, yeah, they're like, oh well, okay, if all these people are volunteering and doing all this work, volunteering, can we talk to them? Oh, sure, we'll get to that. It's one of those like, oh, so you're totally just putting this off until the trap springs, right?
Like, part of what I like so much about this issue is they know it's a trap.
Yeah.
Ove knows they know it's a trap.
Yeah.
And the fact that he doesn't care that they know makes this terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Also, just
so Ove invites Carol to a private dinner.
Yeah.
And has his people deliver her all of these dresses to wear that she can choose from.
So creepy.
And she's like, yeah, and Emma's like, you're not going to wear one of these, are you? And she's like, hell no, I'm not wearing one of these. Da, da, da. And so Carol comes back and she's like, Emma, oh, so you're wearing the dress? And Emma's like, well, yeah, of course. And then Carol keeps complaining about it, right? And I can't believe you're still wearing a dress when we get for this recon. To which Emma replies, and this is my quote of the week, by the way.
Brian's quote of the week. Quote.
Carol, I have fought wars in less. And didn't you wear a swimsuit with thigh highs? You know what they say about stones and glass houses, right? To which somebody says, you guys remember we are telepathically linked, right? And Emma goes, aren't you the lucky ones, my loves? God, I love Emma.
Kelly Thompson's Emma is just in a league of her own.
I know. I love it. And then we get to my truly terrifying part of the book, which is when they open the vault.
Oh, yeah.
and my girl is enslaved in magical chains, and we find out how Carol got brought here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Ilyana.
Magic. Magic brought her here. Using magic.
Any of you have seen the little... Anyway, I won't go there. That's funny. Yeah, suffice it to say things don't go well after that.
No. No,
Yeah.
it's a bad day for everyone.
Turns out Enchantress and her magic are probably not quite what they were expecting.
No.
So, yeah. God, I like this, though. I do like this story a lot. As awful as some of these people are, they're good characters.
Agreed. Heroes at Home #1.
So this specifically, I think the reason to read this is just to see how Gurihiru can tell a story with nothing but her art or
It's
their
actually
art.
a
Yeah.
team.
Yes.
Gurihiru's
You're
team.
right, and that's why I said yep. I corrected myself. Their art, yes, because there's almost no words in this.
Really?
Did you read it at all?
No, I didn't pick it up.
Okay. It is, I mean, obviously, same person. Like, the art style is just like Superman Smashes the Klan, right?
Yeah.
And so, the art is super, super cool. Yet, like, I think there's probably not more than 10 word panels in the whole thing, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, it's, like, long, but it goes super fast. So, like, the first one is Peter, right? And I'm not going to go through each of these individually.
Parker?
Peter Parker, yep.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to tell you the first one is an example of like what these are like, right?
Yeah.
So we see Peter with his spider suit on, but his mask off, right? And he's got an oven tray full of croissants that he's about to bake. And he sets the oven and puts them in, right? And then he's vacuuming and he's folding laundry. And I will point out, so one of the T-shirts on the top of the pile is Jeff the Land Shark on the top of the T-shirt.
Yes.
And then he's like, you see him sitting down and he's fiddling with some of his web stuff. And we see him look down and he's putting his web cartridge in. And he looks and the web cartridge says active dry yeast. And he stops for a minute and he's like, oh. And then we switch to the kitchen and there's webbing. Just the oven door is blown off and there's webbing all over the kitchen. Yes. And like, that's an example of what these are like.
Yeah.
Right? And then I was about 4 stories into this when I realized the one thing that will truly make you at some point want to see this. And that is that it turns out Jeff the Land Shark is hidden in every single one of these.
Amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yes. But yeah, we get Black Panther and Hulk and Captain Marvel and like all of these heroes and just kind of these goofy little, aside moments that are just kind of fun.
Cool.
And that's what I would say this is. This is just fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Krakoa, or Krakoan space,
yeah,
S.W.O.R.D #1. So, okay, first off, Marte Gracia coloring on this is, pardon the pun, out of this world.
See what you did there.
The first shot we get is the S.W.O.R.D station orbiting, and it's just gorgeous.
That is beautiful, yeah.
The peak. And Magneto has come to visit. We get the hierarchy of the peak with Abigail Brand in charge. We see that Magneto is the council representative. And then there are 6 divisions under Brand. Technology and engineering, led by WizKid. Logistics, led by Manifold, with a teleport team of Blink, Lila Cheney, Gateway, Vanisher, and Amelia Vaught. In what seems like the most ill-advised staffing decision in history, medical and energy resources are overseen by Fabian Cortez. Just put a pin in his name for a moment, because I will mention him again later.
Of course you will.
Diplomacy and negotiation are overseen by Frenzy, with armor in training, and a Kree Skrull ambassador is on deck right now. Pybok. Cable oversees security, with Random and Risk as his subdirectors. We don't know who is in charge of observation and analysis, but the second in command there is Peeper.
Yep.
There are also in this diagram 6 characters marked as assigned to Redacted X, which I think we learn what that is in the course of this issue.
Yeah, we do.
And then we get Magneto's arrival, and like through this whole first scene, he's repositioning the base in space for better fuel efficiency, which I love.
Yes. Like using his magnetic pad to reposition it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. To which Cable says, whoa, wait. You're doing that while moving a 1,000-ton space station into place? He's like, yeah, I can also walk and chew a little gum.
I also appreciate the thank you for your welcome, Nathan. Did I detect a hope you survive the experience? Well, if you don't survive, I'm pretty sure I get fired. So, try not to die of old age while you're here. I love the two of them together in this.
They're just sassy enough to each other, yes.
Yeah. Then we get Abigail Brand on deck.
Yeah.
And she takes over, giving Magneto his tour. And then we jump to a text page. And remember when we were talking about Immortal Hulk, and I was like, oh, Peter Gyrick's in charge of Alpha or Gamma Flight now. Mm-hmm. Alpha Flight and Gamma Flight, I guess.
Yes.
That seems like that could become relevant in S.W.O.R.D. Well, Brian, who is Abigail Brand pissed about being in charge of Alpha Flight now?
That'd be Henry Gyrick. Yeah.
Between Gyrick and Fabian Cortez showing up in here, I'm getting some serious 90s X-Men animated series, like, vibes.
Yeah.
Also probably because I just rewatched all of it and all of X-Men Evolution, and I'm working on Wolverine and the X-Men now, but neither here nor there.
I love that Magneto just will not even give him the time of day.
No, it's great. Like, he's just so beneath Magneto, and watching Magneto be super cool to other people, especially Peeper.
Yes.
Just eats Cortez up, and you know it.
Well, and possibly one of my favorite things in the whole book is right after that when he's trying to suck up to Magneto essentially, and Magneto ignores him basically and walks on to it, and he turns to Abigail and he's like, "Why him exactly?" She's like, "Slim pickings, short notice, and we're working on it." Yeah. And but her face, that grimace that on her face is like, I know he's the worst, but it's all we got right now.
Yeah. This is also one of those books that kind of is led by some characters I don't know.
Yep, me too.
WizKid is one of them. WizKid, who I immediately dig in this.
Oh yeah.
And also appreciate the Valerio Skiddy is on art, and I appreciate the choice to put him in a chair that is basically Charles Xavier's from the 90s X-Men cartoon, but in red.
Yeah.
It was like, he communicates with technology, whether it's mutant or organic or mechanical. Like, if it's technological in some way, he can interface with it. And I like that the power set doesn't distinguish between the basis of the technology.
Correct.
And Magneto's like, well, the honor is mine. He's super cool. Like, everyone but Fabian, he's just super cool too. I love the old grandfatherly vibes on Magneto in this book.
Very much so.
And we get some walk and talk. We get, here's another instance of me harassing Brian about not having read enough Al Ewing stuff. We get the information that, Snark War from Guardians of the Galaxy is relevant. And so is the destabilization of the entire galactic economy. And I'm assuming the something roaming through space, killing and eating whole planets
It's gotta be Null, right?
Null, yeah. Tying into so many things Brian's not paying attention to.
It happens.
Yeah. But I think it catches you up pretty well. And we get Brand's sort of MO here, which is, okay, yes, I get it. You're worried about Krakoa and its place in the world. But, while you are funding us, I have to think of Earth's place in space, so forgive me if I'm not always worried about your one island.
Right.
Then we see the diplomatic suite, which is called the Stranger Room, which is basically an in-space danger room for ceremonial trials by combat.
Yep.
And like we see the ambassador punching out the Kree Skrull ambassador who's like, "This place is great. I am recommending we negotiate with you guys."
Yep.
Like the sense of humor in this book is
It's
fantastic.
definitely on point. Yes. One might say sword point.
Yeah. But there is one issue that the Kree Skrull Empire has with Krakoa specifically.
Yeah.
And I like, again, just the way that this is sort of tying into everything, the very broad approach to creating the political atmosphere, drawing from every possible corner, I think is part of what makes this book work so well for me. And in this case, it's the Krakoa doesn't accept Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, because she is not actually a mutant and because of Genosha, but also because of the decimation, the whole no more mutants thing.
Yeah.
But also having Magneto involved, like, he calls her the Pretender, which is as much about her maybe not really being a mutant, as much as it is when she learned she and Pietro weren't mutants, they also learned that they weren't Magneto's children.
Right.
So, like, it's a very personal stake.
Yeah, there's a lot of bitterness there from him. Yeah.
And none of this does the book make a big meal out of. It just presents it as fact and landscape and moves on.
Yeah.
It's like X-Men Space West Wing.
Yeah.
Then we get Fabian Cortez's appearance. And then we get to the Al Ewing sort of like high concept sci-fi. So we know the five.
Correct. Who are the Resurrection Protocol.
Yes. And we may have seen them referred to this way before, but this book talks about them as a circuit. Which is why WizKid's ability with I mentioned mutant technology. Mutant technology meaning like circuits created of people with complementary power sets, mutants with complementary power sets.
Where it flows from one to the other to accomplish something on the other end. Right?
Yeah.
A system, sure.
And we see S.W.O.R.D has the 6, who were those 6 marked with the S.W.O.R.D logo.
Yeah.
That uses a circuit and a teleportation crew to open this void. And there's a sort of breakdown of who they all are and what they do and who their backups could be, and like we get sort of the schematics as text pages, which I think is a great use of text page.
Sure.
Because it lets us sort of get all the answers to the questions and then see the cool cosmic shit. And we get into cool cosmic shit immediately after that. They open a circuit to create a wormhole to reach into a void, essentially.
Yeah, so if you remember, we named that there were like, what was it, 5 teleporters? Like,
yes,
powerful teleporters. Like, not just like, Nightcrawler poof from here to there, but like Lila Cheney who can teleport literally across the universe, right?
Yeah, Manifold and Gateway and
and like they combine all of them in this to basically open this portal to way beyond the known existence of space.
Yes.
Like way out past anything. What they like further and further still into the mystery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could journey into mystery.
Into mystery. Yeah, I know. Of course. I thought the same thing. Right.
And after it's over, Manifold's like beat up. It's like, so we just broke some laws, cosmic ones.
like a equivalent to this, right, would be if this were DC, they open something beyond the source wall. Right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. And in this place, they send this team, which are the rest of the 6, right, essentially, to harness this. I think they refer to it as an elemental cosmic heart.
Uh-huh.
And take it and using their abilities in tandem, basically compress it down into a pyramidal shaped thing and bring it back with them.
So I have a theory.
Okay,
Because Al Ewing is,
Al Ewing.
well, I was going to say one of those writers who, like, you can say is Al Ewing, but Rick
Yeah.
Remender does this.
Oh yeah.
Jonathan Hickman certainly does this. Because he is one of these writers who is very canny about not reinventing the wheel and about using ideas and concepts that he has played with before and bringing them back in new and interesting ways.
Or even that other people have created and kind of left sitting out there. Yeah.
Right. I think I know what this is.
Okay.
At least I have a good guess. I think this is ISO 8.
Oh, now that I do not know.
So, right after Secret Wars, when we had our sort of like soft, not reboot in the way DC does it, but sort of our soft relaunch of the world, and the Fantastic Four was outside of space rebuilding existence, and there was an 8-month time jump in comics.
Like new editorial segment of the Marvel universe.
In that moment where like the world in continuity was rebuilt from scratch from nothing.
Okay.
Al Ewing wrote a pair of Ultimates books about a high concept, basically Space Avengers team. It's the book where they turned Galactus from the Destroyer into
the
Lifebringer.
Okay.
One of the concepts that Ewing introduced was the concept of ISO 8, which was this building block of reality. And the reason why it is called ISO 8 is because with each rebirth of the Marvel Universe, it becomes more complex. So prior to Secret Wars, it was ISO 7. The universe that held ISO 6 was the one that
Ganthet.
Galen.
No, Galen. Yeah, sorry.
Who becomes, in this universe, becomes Galactus.
Yep.
That was his home universe, was where ISO 6 came from.
Okay.
In continuity, the cosmic cubes are made out of ISO 7 or ISO 8. Like, this is like the very fabric building blocks of reality, it is ISO 8. Like, with basically limitless potential for reshaping reality if you know how to harness it and what to do with it.
Got it.
That is my guess. It's also a currency in some Marvel video games.
No, that sound like, just from the portrayal here, that sounds exactly like what this might be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I say how much I like Abigail Brand? I don't have a lot of exposure to her, but like in this in particular, I really like her.
I think there are books where she ends up written like Space Maria Hill.
Okay. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, just like where her role is a little more bureaucratic and impatient, and I'll do what's right and what not what's good or whatever. But here I think she's written with a little bit more like depth than just that. So yeah, I'm with you. She's fantastic in this.
Yeah.
I feel like she gets written better in X-Men books than out of X-Men books.
Well, then we're in good shape. All right, loved it. Let's go.
Marauders number 16.
I love everything about this book. Yeah, probably my favorite Kate in I don't even know how long. Oh my god. So good. All good. We get good Emma. We get good Storm.
We get good Lockheed.
We get good Sebastian in the terms of being a good character and being who he is.
Yeah. Which is just a colossal dick.
It is. So, yeah, essentially we get Bishop showing up he has called Storm to like a private meeting to say, yeah, so we did an investigation on where Kate was killed and found this thing that only could come from where Sebastian lives. And Aurora's like, yeah, we know who did it. And he's like, and you're just gonna let him go? She's like, oh no, he'll pay.
Yeah, no, we're on this. Don't worry.
To which we see Emma and Kate riding up on horses to Hellfire Bay,
Yes.
which is the castle that Shaw has taken for himself.
I've also got to say, there was a part of this issue,
Mm-hmm.
about the first half or so of it, where because they put Storm in her black costume, I really thought they were just going to, like, kill him and put her in running
Ah,
as the Black Queen.
got it. But no, so they come and they knock, and Shaw is all put out that somebody is disturbing his enjoyment of his incredibly pricey whiskeys that he has collected, and gets up to go answer the door and walks up to the door and is like, "Yes, who is it?" And you just see these fists come through the door. And of course, the first one is Kate's fist with her knuckle tat that says kill, and then followed up by her other fist that says Shaw,
Yeah.
as she punches him through the door and then walks her and Emma through it. Like, doesn't even open the door, just walks in. And then they proceed to absolutely fuck him up.
Yeah. Hey, where did Emma get the gun from Crossover?
I don't know, but I love it.
I love the sound effect. VoIP, as in voice over internet protocol.
Sure. Because, obviously Kate punched him and he's like, "Man, you two really blundered in coming in here. Do you not remember what my power is? That, like, the more you hit him, the stronger he gets, right?"
Yeah.
To which Emma's like, "Oh, yeah, we do remember. As long as you have your gift." And she shoots him with this gun. It's like, "And now you don't." To which, Kate then goes up and just knees him in the crotch as hard as she can.
Yep.
And he has never felt that before.
Master that kinetic energy.
God, she is just on point in this. Because then she proceeds to just start fucking up his whiskey collection.
Yeah, like just dropping bottles or taking a swig and throwing them in the fireplace.
Oh, I love her one where she takes a big gulp and goes, "Hey, guess who I am?" And, like, spits it in the fire, so of course it flares up. "I'm Lockheed."
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it turns out Lockheed wants to kill him for what he did.
Understandably.
Yeah, and they Emma's like, "You'll be glad to know I negotiated with Lockheed, and so Lockheed's not gonna kill you."
Oh, there's one thing before we get there, though.
Oh yeah, there is.
He, like, puts his fists up and he's like, "I can fight you without powers. My name is Sep," and then she just ninja chops him in the throat.
Yeah, she does
because
the throat jab. Yeah.
They may remember his powers, but clearly he has forgotten that Kate is also trained as a goddamn ninja.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And she, like, literally his hands are up to block, and she just reaches through his hands and then throat punches him. Yeah. Yes. To which what I love is then they're sitting down and Emma basically explains it to him nice and calmly, being Emma. Yeah, we can bring this before the Quiet Council and we can have a vote and you will end up beside Sabretooth forever in I can't remember what they call it, but
in the hole.
The hole forever. And, like, never ever get out. Or we can make this a private Hellfire matter and deal with it now. Which would you prefer? To which, of course, because he's Sebastian, "Neither! You took my power from me," and he gets up and starts running. To which Emma's like, you can hear the sigh in her voice, right?
Yeah.
"Do be a dear and go collect him."
Then we get the best 9-panel spread in the history of 9-panel spreads.
Maybe so.
Exterior. Shaw flying out of the first or the second floor window and hitting the ground in panel 3.
Yeah.
Cue one of my favorite characters, Glob Herman. "Oh my gosh, you okay, Mr. Shaw?" Kitty enters through the door.
Well, literally walking through the door, yeah.
Yeah. Grabs Shaw by the leg and starts dragging him through the door. "Bye, Glob." Shaw. And then the last 2 panels, Glob starts to walk off and then is
Glob running off. Yeah. Yeah, and then then somebody brings in Lockheed. It's Storm. Storm brings Lockheed in, and
now you want the panel where I went to Dark Knight Returns? This panel with the lightning behind Storm and Lockheed.
That's fair. Because as she's walking in, hold that thought, Sebastian. I am not the only aggrieved party. And we hear Storm go, Lockheed demanded blood. And then we see Aurora, and I demanded to witness this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where Emma says, yeah, I negotiated on your behalf a settlement whereby the young lad, meaning Lockheed, will only acquire a taste of what he wanted. To which Lockheed removes one of his eyes.
Yeah.
And spits it in the fire.
But look on the bright side, Shaw. Now you can cosplay Old Man Cable.
Yeah, and then like Shaw really doesn't understand what position he's in still, even after that.
He clearly thinks that he can still turn this around and get the upper hand.
Oh yeah. And then they tell him that, yeah, we know everything that you did, like including dealing with the Verendi and all of it. And by the way, you just that drink that you just had was laced with Verendi poison. So you're not going to die and get resurrected. You're going to stay here in a broken body for a long, long time. To which because the poison that he drank basically cripples his body. To which Kate calmly reaches into an inner pocket of her red trench coat and pulls out a patch and puts it over his eye for him. So he has a patch. To which Emma looks and goes, carry an eye patch in your pocket?
Figured I'd need it at some point.
And then we cut to the next morning as the quiet council gathers.
Which, incidentally, this does confirm for us
Yes,
Jean is out.
Correct. And yeah, the spring council walks in, to which Kate pushing Sebastian in the wheelchair, and to which I think it's Magneto makes the comment. Excuse me, Emma, but should the council not discuss what has happened to Sebastian? And Kate goes, nope. I mean, unless you want to put it to a vote, yes, I would like to. To which they all vote. We get a yes from Professor X, a yes from Magneto, a hell yes from Mr. Sinister, a very well yes from Shaw. Oh, who was his son? I can't remember. Damn it, I'm drawing a blank now. I don't know. And then Mystique. No.
Mystique's is my favorite. I love the little smirk on her face,
yes.
too.
Aurora is no. Kurt is, I guess, yes. To which Emma, Sebastian wisely, and Kate all say no. Looks like we're deadlocked. Yeah. Oh, so good.
And then like the last panel of this, the look on his face, like he still thinks he can turn this around.
Of course he does. So what we find this whole episode is Kate and Emma's revenge against him, and it is magnificently done.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved it.
All right, is it still good?
Yeah, let's get
7
going.
Secrets, number 5. In order to defend themselves, all the secret holders go to one place, and it's as bad an idea as you might expect. Injustice Year Zero, number 12. The Joker gets an upgrade. Wonder Woman, number 768. Brian.
Diana starts tracking down what happened to Maxwell Lord and gaining an understanding of Liar, while she sinks deeper into her imagined psychosis and becomes a knight.
Lock and Key, The Sandman, Hell and Gone, number 0.
So I'm going to step out of format just for a moment here. This essentially is reprinting a couple of stories. So it's reprinting from Sandman 1 the introduction of who, them trying to summon death and bind death and getting Morbius instead, right? Which is from very early in Sandman. And then the other one they're reprinting is, hang on, I want to make sure I get the right, Open the Moon, which was a short story that took place in, I can't remember exactly where. One of the additional lock and key books, right?
Yeah.
And basically, it is just kind of this is issue 0, so it introduces us to both Key House and the house in Witchcross, England, which is the mansion that was owned by the Lord Magus of the Order of Ancient Mysteries, right? Which is where they were attempting, like I said, to summon death and bind her, and they end up summoning Morpheus by act. But yeah, so this is just an introduction to those two places because they are going to be the settings and how they end up getting tied together for this going on. I am
Cool.
super excited about this.
Marvel Action Chillers number 3. We learn that Nadia Van Dyne and Peter Parker have been working on a lab experiment together to help cure the lizard when the book frees Venom and binds Venom to Peter and Nadia and eventually Ironheart have to fight off Venom. So good.
Mm-hmm.
I miss Nadia.
Me too.
Getting it together, number 3. The band plays a gig and then everyone gets high. Avengers number 39, Brian.
We get the backstory of the Avengers 1 million BC Phoenix.
Guardians of the Galaxy number 9. Maybe Peter Quill's not dead so much as has been living in an alternate reality for 140 something years until he gets chased down by the Olympian gods. And oh, by the way, he might have actually been made into more than a human by the Master of the Sun, whoever that is, although the Master of the Sun doesn't exist. Juggernaut number 4. Kane Marco smashes stuff. In this case, the stuff belongs to Arnim Zola. King in Black, Namor number 1, or as I will henceforth refer to it, Namor Babies. Young Namor and friends fight off invaders who are threatening a peace between kingdoms and then get sent off to deal with some mysterious artifact that I imagine will have to do with the King in Black because the book's called King in Black Namor. Strange Academy number 6. The faculty shows up to rescue the 10 missing students and succeeds with 9 of them.
Oops.
R.I.P. Dormammu.
Oh.
Venom number 31. Eddie Brock learns that it's not the fall that kills you. This week's books. Second Coming, Only Begotten Son number 1. This is on both of our lists.
Was it? Okay, good.
Yep. All for more Mark Russell writing not Superman.
Right.
And his roommate Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all for this.
Yeah. King in Black, Immortal Hulk one-shot. This is exactly what it says on the tin, right? Like, it's how the two of these characters, I guess, relate, deal with each other. I keep seeing tweets from different Marvel creators who've already read this saying just how good it is. I am super excited. Brian, Death Metal number 6.
Yeah, I mean this is our wrap up. This is the big battle, right? We just had the one shot that gave us the night before, and this is gonna be the big fight, the end of it.
There's a 7th issue.
I know, but like that's what I mean by this is
okay.
like this is the battle. This is I imagine that's the denouement because
Gotcha.
this is the fight. This is it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I've got a pair of books that are not number 1s, but that I do want to draw attention to. One is Resonant number 6. This is a Vault series that started, I believe, in 2018, and maybe even the first arc wrapped up then. It's been on a long hiatus, but it's excellent, and if you were reading it, don't miss this next issue coming back. If you haven't read it, grab the first arc and trade. Strongly recommend it. And then New Mutants number 14 is the beginning of Vita Ayala's run as the writer for the New Mutants book.
Yes.
I think they did a couple of issues for Ten of Swords, but this is new arc dealing with, like, I think this is going to be dealing with the Okaran land that got added back. Or, sorry, Arakan land that got added back. because it talks about the New Mutants being out in the unexplored wilds.
Right.
In the solicitation.
I can't
text.
wait. I can't wait.
Yeah. And that is it for us this week. We'd like to thank Chase Parker for our intro voiceover. You can visit us at panelologypodcast.com, support us at patreon.com/panelology, get merch at bit.ly/panelologymerch, capital P, capital M, or write to us, sending us questions, comments, or whatever at bit.ly/panelologymailbag, capital P, capital M. I'm Alex.
And I am Brian. Go read some comics this week.